The so-called genius mind seem to have an understanding of topics that most lay people or normal people don't have. But why? How? And what does that really mean? When someone says, yeah, I understand, but you know in your head they don't understand the same way you understand, are you the one with the genius thinking and understanding? Or is it them? Or are both of you completely wrong? There is a long-standing view of understanding as knowledge of causes, a notion that for you to have understanding of something, all you need is knowledge of the cause, or causes. However, according to some critics, knowledge of causes isn't necessary for understanding. We can understand before knowing a cause, or understand from non-causal sources. The traditional model suggests having knowledge of causes gives you understanding, but what if you don't recognize the cause? An example used in the paper goes like this. I might know my son is undergoing an anaphylactic reaction. I know he is suffering from the effects, and I know he just ate peanuts. But I might not be able to identify the eating of the peanuts as the cause of the reaction, so I might not have made the connection between peanuts and the reaction. How do I know it was the peanuts and not something else he ate or did? The natural answer is to give a causal proposition. My son is undergoing an anaphylactic reaction because he just ate some peanuts. But this proposition model, or making a claim as an explanation for why something happened, suggests understanding is having an explanation for something, knowing the proposition to be true. But knowing the cause doesn't mean understanding. If someone unaware of peanut allergies knew someone ate peanuts and went into an anaphylactic shock, they wouldn't understand peanuts caused the shock, just that the person ate peanuts. A different example was used where the house burns down. The son asks the fire chief why it burned down. The chief says faulty wiring, and the son accepts that. Assuming the proposition model is true, because the son now has knowledge of the cause, wiring, does the son now understand why the house burned down? Pritchard says the last step is implausible, because it seems wrong to say the son now understands why the house burned down. And I agree, wiring could mean a whole host of things, and who knows what the son is thinking with their prior knowledge of how fires work or how wires work. Therefore, it isn't just knowledge of causes, but requires conceptions of how the cause might bring about the effect. So how the peanut caused the shock, or how the wiring caused the fire. Having the correct explanation of peanuts caused the shock or the wiring caused the fire is knowledge, but it doesn't create an understanding of why. To get to the why, we might need a sense of how the cause creates the effect, or an ability to answer closely related questions. What did the peanut do to the body? Where was the spark from the wire to start the fire? Despite all the disagreement in epistemology, the study of knowledge, a priori knowledge, or knowledge of necessary truths, is fairly agreed upon. 2 plus 3 equals 5, or no object can be red all over and green all over at the same time. But a problem with this characterization is that not all knowledge of necessary truths amounts to a priori knowledge. If I say 207 plus 86 is 293 and you can't be bothered to check it on your calculator, you will have knowledge of a necessary truth, but it isn't a priori, it is more like a testimonial from me or the calculator. Trusting another source to give you information that you assume is right or true is not a priori. To get to a priori, it requires seeing or grasping at some level the reason or rational insight in getting to the answer. In the math example, seeing or grasping that there is no possible world where the sum is not 293. The reason this helps with knowledge and understanding can be seen in this example scenario. You start chopping an onion and your eyes start to water. You think you understand your eyes are watering because you are chopping an onion. You don't think it is the time of day, the shirt or dress you're wearing, it is the onion causing your eyes to water. But someone with greater understanding of onion eyeball chemistry would be able to go further than say, it's the onion, and say it's the sulfur compound being broken down and released into the air when chopping the onion. A side note here, I didn't know that until reading this paper. I don't know about all of you. But what the person with deeper understanding would therefore grasp is that chopping other vegetables with the same compounds would lead to the same result. Or if they chop an onion without the compounds in, the eyes wouldn't water. This is not to say you don't understand onions cause your eyes to water, but there is a degree of understanding for each person from their prior knowledge. So what Linda suggested is that understanding is not directed towards a discrete proposition, but involves grasping relations of parts to other parts, and perhaps the relations of parts to wholes. For those familiar with systems theory and the ecological dynamics approach to coaching and teaching, you may see the connection between the elements of the environment being organized into systems, which we can call understanding. A quote in this paper states that dependence, or a relation between individual states and events, is what we speak about with causal dependence of one event or state on another. So our understanding depends on how we make the relations between the peanuts and the shock, the wire and the fire, the onion and the watery eyes. Extending that further suggests that understanding consists not of knowledge of causes, but something like knowledge of dependency relations, or just knowledge of dependencies. You could certainly argue that is just words and the marketing of what it means to understand. That is what I thought first time around. But that is why this comment from Kvanvig got me thinking. Understanding is therefore in a way less demanding than knowledge, and in another way more. Less demanding because you can understand something but be mistaken. The knowledge dependencies have flaws, potentially rational errors for those familiar with the meta-ignorance literature, but understanding is more demanding in that it requires internal connections among our beliefs, actually grasping or seeing the connections. Mental effort from cognitive load theory, either challenging misconceptions, inviting the process of conceptual change, or replacing read-around knowledge with accurate evidence-based scientific reasoning rather than biased reasoning. Knowledge, on the other hand, doesn't require internal grasping of concepts. And we can be lucky in our knowledge of something and lucky in our understanding of something. But when asked further questions looking at the knowledge of dependencies rather than causes, we can get deeper into the topic, reaching our limits of understanding. The Feynman technique is not great, as I explained in the video, but the notion of exploring your internal dependencies and connections with topics and your own organization of information leaves me with some confidence in my own method in increasing understanding, but it is also a reminder that there are endless connections and endless depths of understanding to each topic. So knowing when to stop digging is maybe more important than knowing when to start. And genius understanding could therefore be deep understanding, but with a connection or dependency others are yet to make. What do you think?